In the city of Ravnica, a place of countless guilds and endless intrigue, there exists a being not quite one, not quite many, but something in between, something woven from the threads of ancient oaths and verdant life. This being, known as Trostani, is the nominal leader of the Selesnya Conclave, a guild that seeks unity with nature in a world overrun by artifice and ambition. But to speak of Trostani as a single entity would be misleading, for she is not one but three. Three dryads, three sisters, three aspects of the same ancient spirit that whispers through the roots of the world tree, Selesnya. Trostani, in her present form, did not always exist. She began as three separate beings, each with her own thoughts, desires, and inclinations. There was Oba, wild and unrestrained, with hair tangled in vines and eyes that flickered between green and brown, as changeable as the seasons. She was the dryad of life, and life pulsed through her like the sap through the branches of the trees. Then there was Sez, the embodiment of order, composed and precise in every gesture, her auburn hair falling in neat cascades, held in place by a golden wood headpiece. She was the voice of reason among the three, her words measured and deliberate. And finally, there was Sim, the eldest and smallest of the sisters, yet the one who balanced them all. Sim was harmony, a bridge between life and order, her power subtle yet undeniable, like the roots that hold a forest together beneath the earth. These three sisters, though separate in body, were bound by a shared purpose, to serve Selesnya and the Selesnya Conclave. But as time passed, the Conclave grew restless, its connection to the world tree weakening. The ancient spirit that had once guided them seemed distant, and the unity they so cherished began to fray. It was in this time of crisis that the three sisters sought to renew their bond with Selesnya. They entered a deep trance, a meditation so profound that it took them beyond themselves into the very heart of the world tree. There, aided by the mysterious Suniel, they were bound to an old oak tree, their bodies entwined with its branches, their spirits fused with its ancient wood. And in that moment, Trostani was born, a single being, a fusion of three minds, three hearts, and three souls, all moving in harmony with the desires of Selesnya. But unity is a fragile thing, even for those who embody it. Trostani's existence was not one of seamless concord, but rather a delicate balance, constantly in flux. This was never more apparent than during the events leading up to the War of the Spark, a time of civil unrest and looming catastrophe. The harmony that had once defined Trostani began to unravel. The voice of harmony fell silent, her wisdom lost in the cacophony of dissent. The Dryad of Order argued for peace, for treaties with the other guilds, for a way to avoid the coming conflict. But Oba, the wild spirit of life, had no interest in compromise. She wanted to strengthen the conclave, to prepare for the inevitable battle, to let the weak fall away like leaves in the autumn wind. This discord among the three sisters left Trostani paralyzed, a leader in name only, while others took the reins. Emara Tandris, once a follower, stepped into the void, her calm leadership a balm in troubled times. And yet, when the final battle against Nicol Bolas loomed, Trostani was called upon once more. It was Kaya, the ghost assassin, who persuaded her to join the fight, to set aside the divisions within herself and stand with the other guilds against the dragon god. And so, Trostani found concord once more, if only for a moment, and lent her strength to the battle. When the dust settled, she remained, scarred but unbroken, ready to resume her role as the guildmaster of Selesnya. Yet the world does not pause for recovery, and the scars of war are not so easily healed. The Phyrexian invasion that followed was a horror beyond imagining, a blight that spread across Ravnica like a sickness, corrupting all it touched. And no one felt this corruption more keenly than Trostani, whose very essence was tied to the life force of the plane. Oba, the most passionate of the sisters, took the brunt of the pain. Unbeknownst to her sisters, she extended her consciousness through the roots of Vitu-Ghazi, the world tree's mighty offspring, lending her strength to keep it from being corrupted by the Phyrexian tendrils. In doing so, she became acutely aware of every life lost, every soul twisted by the invasion. But what wounded her most deeply was not the loss of life, but the betrayal she witnessed, the Ravnican citizens who used the chaos to their own advantage, profiting from the suffering of others. Something within Oba snapped. The wild, untamed force of life within her turned dark, twisted by grief and anger. She came to believe that Ravnica itself needed to be cleansed, that the traitors who had betrayed their own kind during the invasion must be purged. And so she hatched a plan that would see her become judge, jury, and executioner. After the invasion, Vitu-Ghazi, damaged and drained, was replanted in a Selesnya park, and Trostani moved with it. But the sisters were not as they had been. Sim and Sez, who had once flanked Oba, found themselves pushed to the periphery, while Oba took the central position. It was as if the wild dryad had consumed the others, her will overpowering theirs. And it was from this new vantage that Oba began her dark work. Using Vitu-Ghazi's roots, which spread throughout the city, she cultivated flowers that bore a potent, mind-altering pollen. When inhaled, this pollen put the victim into a fugue state, during which they would obey whatever instructions Oba had implanted in their minds. She used this power to turn ordinary citizens into assassins, sending them to kill those she deemed guilty of betraying Ravnica. The murders were subtle at first, targeting figures who would not attract attention, those who operated in the shadows, away from the public eye. But when she turned her attention to more prominent figures, the deaths could no longer be ignored. One such victim was Zagana, a merfolk leader who had dabbled in Phyrexian oil, trying to harness its power. Another was Teysa Karloff, a noblewoman who had walked a dangerous line as a double agent during the invasion. These deaths drew the attention of Alquist Proft, a master detective who began to unravel the threads of Oba's plot. As Proft drew closer to the truth, Oba's actions grew more desperate. She orchestrated the murder of Teysa, only to accidentally kill another in the process. But Proft was relentless, and eventually he brought the leaders of the guilds to Vitu-Ghazi, revealing Oba's guilt. Faced with the truth, Oba did not retreat. Instead, she seized control of Trostani's full power, rendering her sisters unconscious and animating Vitu-Ghazi itself to attack the assembled leaders. It was a final, desperate act of defiance, but one that could not last. Kaya, with her ghostly powers, phased through Vitu-Ghazi's vines and, with the help of the injured Etrata, managed to trap Oba within barrier wards, giving her sisters time to subdue her. Emara Tandris once again took up the mantle of leadership for the Conclave. Lavinia, the lawyer of the Guild Pact, sought some legal justification for punishing Oba, but found little. And Kaya, haunted by the events, regretted not ending Oba's life when she had the chance. The ghost of Teysa reassured her that the Selesnya would face their own justice, but the path forward was uncertain. The harmony that had once defined Trostani was shattered, leaving only the hope that, in time, it might be restored.